Welcome, welcome. This is the Bird's Eye View. I am Warduck, and I am here with Mr. Krow.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
And today we're going to talk about a fairly serious incident that happened just the other day. So, let's bring this on up here. So, Alec Baldwin is making a movie where he is the main producer and apparently at
Yep.
least one of the stars, probably the headliner.
Yeah, I'm assuming same. Yeah, main producer, main headliner.
And it was a western, so they were dealing in weapons.
Yep.
And an accident occurred on set where a live round was fired through a prop gun and killed one person and injured another. Now,
It's very sad.
So it doesn't matter where you stand on guns. And yes, Alec Baldwin is a proponent against guns, which is a little bit ironic. But still, this is a super serious issue because somebody actually lost their lives and somebody else was particularly injured.
Injured.
Now, whatever you feel about Alec Baldwin himself, this is a super crappy situation and one that should never happen on a movie set, period.
Or any work environment that deals with this. Yeah, it's
right. But to me, the number one rule of all guns was violated here, and Alec Baldwin violated this rule. And if you don't know what this rule is, then you have never held a gun or never been around somebody that showed you anything about guns. Because the number one rule that everybody always tells you before you touch a gun is what, Mr. Krow?
Treat it as is live.
The gun
loaded.
is always loaded. I don't care if you checked it yourself 2 seconds ago. You always treat the gun as if it is loaded.
They do this in stores. Like if you went to, oh, now I just went blank for the gun store that's around here. But
doesn't matter what the name is, but
yeah, it as you are looking at purchasing a gun, they all treat it like live. Everybody does.
Well, and that's the second part. The number two rule is you never point it at something you do not intend to shoot. Period.
Yes, it's true.
Loaded or not. So he violated rule number 1. He violated rule number 2 of gun safety. And here's the thing: is yes, even on movies where they're shooting, where they're filming gunfights. Part of the movie magic is they don't actually ever point it at somebody. At least they're not supposed to. They're supposed to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They changed that angle. I was going to say they changed the angles so it looks like they're pointing at people, but they're usually off by a couple feet.
They're supposed to be what they consider a dummy target or a dummy spot where you point the gun so they can film to make it look like you're shooting at somebody else.
Yeah.
So
and that's kind of another thing too, is if you look at some of the movies, the way they're portrayed, you'll look at the person and he's getting ready to aim or something, right? And then they cut and they go to the other person and it looks like they're sometimes very similar or very rarely in the same scene. I mean, they're there at times, but
let's back up just a little bit because they keep using this term of prop gun. And I want to be very clear when they use this term. Is a prop gun only means it's a gun being used on set.
Yeah.
That does not mean
it's a toy.
It does not mean it's a toy. It does not mean the barrel is filled. It does not mean it's inoperable. It simply means it's being used on set. So don't get that mistake. A lot of people, when they read this headline, were saying, well, how does a prop gun fire? Well,
it's made that way.
Right.
The gun was
sometimes they shoot wax bullets. Sometimes they have little BBs because they're doing some other things. However, if you never violated rule number 1, 2, and 3, this tragedy would have never happened. And Mr. Krow found some stuff about the union.
Oh yes,
on the set.
Actually, let me bring that right back up. the union, there was a couple people that just hours before this even happened, they actually left. They walked off scene.
Well, it wasn't just a couple people. It sounds like a lot of people.
It was quite, yeah, it was a union. They don't give me an exact number. Well, I wasn't able to find an exact number, but there was a few people. Oh, here we go. No, that's her age. But there was a lot of people who walked off the set apparently due to them saying that the safety,
Particularly
specifically gun
safety.
safety, was horrible on set. They didn't feel comfortable with it, so they walked off set. They said
hours before this accident occurred.
Yeah, it happened hours before this even occurred.
Now
they said, yeah, it was poor gun safety.
So what I was reading is the armor on the set of this movie had raised concerns that she neither felt qualified or comfortable with her position. And that's another thing, is because the armor is the one that's supposed to be in control of all the guns and checking them out, keeping watch on them, making sure all this other stuff is going around.
See, that's the thing, is she's supposed to keep a watch on it at all times. And I swear somewhere I was told that they walked off set, like out. And if you know anything about the sets and how they do it, they walked out of the set and walked over to this cart, grabbed the gun, or grabbed the prop gun, whatever you want to call it, which was not manned. It was unwatched. It was not being, nobody was doing their job on that part. Well, and then they walked back on set and handed the gun
to
him, and it said it was cold.
And let's go back to the seriousness of this, because somebody died.
Oh, yeah.
And there is multiple catastrophic failures in the safety aspect of this. And inevitably, not only is the main producer, Alec Baldwin, in charge of everything that happens there, he's also the one that pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And this brings up a lot of legal questions about criminal charges. There's a whole mess of people getting sued for the private aspect, non-legal aspect of this. But there's the seriousness of the criminal charges, because it doesn't take much to get you to a spot of involuntary manslaughter. Like you talk about, you're driving and you weren't being safe and you hit somebody, like a bicyclist. Let's say you were driving down the road and you didn't give them space. You hit a bicyclist and they killed them. Well, if they find that you acted in not the best interest, that you didn't take any kind of action or caution, then you are guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Now, with Alec Baldwin being in charge of all the safety stuff, him being handed the gun, he didn't check the gun, he didn't aim it at a dummy point, and he fired the gun at somebody and then killed somebody. That is all the definitions of basically involuntary manslaughter.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to be a legal battle for him. It kind of sucks.
So all the state needs to demonstrate was he was engaged in a lawful but dangerous act and did not act with due caution.
Yeah.
That's it. That is involuntary manslaughter. It is there because you killed somebody on accident. You didn't mean to do it, but you didn't take the precautions necessary to prohibit or avoid it. This is a super sad incident. This is the second one in my it might be the third. It's either the second or the third one in my lifetime that has happened.
I was explaining this to my daughter, and she's like, "Isn't this the same thing that happened to Brandon Lee on The Crow?" And I was like, "It's exactly what happened."
Yep.
And that was in what, 93-ish? So that was in the 90s.
But there was one before that, and I don't remember when it was, but
Yeah.
I want to think it was in the 80s, which means, yes, it was the third one in my lifetime, but I can't remember. I can't remember when it was or who it was or what it was on. I'm sure if we did
Yeah, we could do some research and find it,
enough
but
research, we could find it. But this isn't really like, this is more of like, I am a 2A rights guy. I believe in the Second Amendment. I have a whole numerous things of guns. I've trained in the military with guns. I hunted as a kid. I've been around guns my whole life. I remember when I was a little kid, when my dad was teaching me to shoot, he was like, "Hey, the gun is always loaded. The gun is always loaded." And I was maybe like 8 or 9. He's standing next to me or behind me, right? And I shot a revolver and downrange. And when the next one clicked, I brought it down to my side, and for whatever reason, pulled the trigger again, and it went off.
oh, scary.
Went off in
And
front of me, about 5 feet or so. Scared the crap out of me. In fact, I didn't hold the gun for about 2 years after that, until I went hunting with the
sure.
rifle. But that was an in-grain accident that could have been very serious, but it was a lesson I learned at a super young age. And even though that accident occurred, my dad was in a place behind me to ensure that the gun wasn't being waved around anywhere that could have hurt anybody else. And it went off in front of me into the ground.
It's funny that you well, not funny. It's interesting to hear how you're saying this because I grew up with guns. I'm okay with guns, right? I don't own any guns, but I have friends who have them, and we do. I treat them much the same. However, I have paintball guns. Tons of paintball guns. Like and I've raised my kids the same way. The number one rule is never aim it at somebody. Always treat that there's a ball still in the barrel. And then I said, especially like this is the safety that we always constantly not just don't aim it at anybody, but it's something at my I've trained my kids too that if somebody's not wearing a mask, you don't aim it at them.
And
Like
and
it's
it's
too
funny you bring this up. I was in California at the time, and me and a bunch of coworkers went to a paintball course, right?
Mhm.
Where they had a bunch of different map kind of things, right? And or courses, whatever you call them.
Courses, yeah.
And we were behind this little wall separating the course.
Yep.
And I had put my gun between my legs, and I was putting my mask on as I got shot right in the back of the neck from the people behind us, accidentally just doing stuff,
Just yep.
not having gun safety. Now, if
Yep.
I had been turned around, that could have hit me anywhere right into here, which could have been super serious.
Oh yeah.
And like you just like, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's considered dangerous as a weapon, whether it's knives, paintball guns, or anything like that, you just
Airsoft gun.
cannot act in a lackadaisical way where somebody can get hurt. That's just irresponsible.
Yeah. I know
And
that airsoft they're the same way too. They don't aim it at people unless you're intending to shoot them.
and to me, I think
And
those are more serious than paintball guns to me,
yeah,
because they shoot this little tiny projectile, which is much easier
yeah.
to damage stuff, you know. But
Oh yeah. Those ones are fun.
but
They
bow
hurt.
and arrows,
Oh, arrows are the same?
knives,
Yep.
axes, bat, anything like that. You just have to know where your surroundings and treat it with the respect that it deserves, because injuries can happen, and
Yeah.
this is the serious kind of stuff that can happen when people get complacent.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories with this stuff, because people are saying that because he's anti 2A and anti gun, and that somebody planted a bullet in the gun on purpose. That's going to
Mm.
come out when the police start looking around. It's a revolver. That shell will be fingerprinted. They'll find out the last person to touch it, and
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of questions to be answered by people, and there's a lot of people responsible here, because this was a catastrophic failure from the very, very top.
Yeah.
Now, just
Yeah, it's a sad thing that happened, and it really does suck, but
now
yeah.
it sounds like there was a camera operator.
Yep.
There was a lady that got injured that was behind the camera operator, and then the lady that died was behind them.
Behind that person. Yep.
And what it sounded like is they weren't filming yet.
No.
It was a
My
pre-filming stage, and so it makes me wonder why he pulled the trigger on that gun, regardless if it was cold or hot, which he says
yeah.
he didn't know. Like, was this, we need to redo this, and he made some offhanded comment and pointed the gun as a joke and pulled the trigger as a joke, and it went off and hurt somebody? Because that's even more serious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a lot of questions that haven't been answered yet, and the investigation will go through and they do their due diligence. I hope they don't hide the facts of this case and try to spin it because, let's face it, he's a rich white guy, right? And rich people tend to get off with lesser sentences or lesser charges and things. I hope whatever they find out, whatever the true facts of this case are, that they take it all the way to the end of the legal action that should be for everybody,
Yeah.
whatever that is. If he's found to where it was a fault of somebody else and somehow the statutes aren't met under the law for these other things, fine, so be it. But
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
certainly hope they don't try to wash this away. So this is
I hope that they try to treat it as if as a true, as a true incident,
yeah.
not just like who's behind it. Like, just yeah, it'd be
And
sad if they try to sweep it under.
so I don't know. I know the lady was married. I can't remember
Yeah,
if she had kids or not.
I think she had one at least that I know of. I think I want to say it was a son. I think very young though. But
So
yeah,
Helena Hutchins,
Hutchins. Yeah,
Halyna. I think it's Helena Hutchins. She was only 42.
yeah,
So it's a really sad story, and I hate to hear stuff like this, but I don't understand how you can't learn lessons from these tragedies. Brandon Lee should have been the very last person ever to die on a movie set from a handgun.
yeah,
And to have this happen again is just inexcusable. And I don't understand how this has happened. I don't.
yeah.
It's a huge tragedy.
And I know that you look at all the movies that are out there and how many shoot guns and how much of this really goes on. They do have a pretty good record of safety, but when this happens, that's the thing is they have policies, they have these steps in process or in the place for a reason. And you look at all of the movies that happen and they don't have issues. If you follow these policies, if you follow the rules and
That's
you
right.
follow these things, this kind of stuff doesn't happen. And when it does happen, it's gonna suck. Yeah, because that's because you weren't doing something.
Yeah, you
Whether
failed
it
to
be
follow the safety rules.
exactly you ignored something for some reason, and that really sucks for you, but that's the reason why the policies are there. That's why the procedures are there, is to make sure that people are safe.
Right.
So,
So, in closing, for me, I just want to say always be safe when you're handling stuff, regardless if you think it's cold or whatever term you want to use. A gun is always loaded. Always loaded. You never ever pointed at something that you don't intend to shoot.
that's true.
So
Yeah.
please keep safety in mind when you're out target practicing or when you're out hunting.
I was just gonna say it's hunting season where I'm at. I don't know if it's like worldwide or whatever,
Yeah, it's
but
hunting.
yeah, it's definitely you be safe out there, everyone. Just be careful, be cautious. Take your time. Think before you pull that trigger, just as a reaction.
All
And
right,
be
everybody.
careful on the target range too.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, everywhere,
Yeah.
in your room, when you're cleaning your weapon, anywhere,
Oh yeah.
always treat it with the respect it deserves.
Can't tell you how many times I've shot the window or the TV or something with my paintball gun. Bring it home and I decide to start cleaning it and poof, it's like, oh my gosh. But yeah, be safe out there, people.
All right. All right, everybody, we are out of here. Hope you
See
enjoyed
you
this.
later.
Make sure you leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts about what you think this is going to go. Make sure you leave a like. Make sure that algorithm gets fed so other people see the video.
Definitely.
And if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, go ahead and think about subscribing and like. We try to put out a couple videos every week. So,
It's great.
all right, much
Thanks
love all.
for coming by, everyone. See ya.